I'm Irene Koval. I'm president of Glendale Community College. I want to give you a very warm West Valley welcome to Glendale. We think we are the most beautiful campus of the Maricopa system, and I say that with great pride and all humility, so you'll know that that comes from my heart. Tonight we're in for a treat to hear the two candidates for District 4 for the Maricopa County Community College Board seat, and we'll have a facilitated discussion tonight. And so I'm here to introduce the facilitator. The Maricopa Community College's Center for Civic Participation and the Office of the Government Relations have partnered to organize this series of candidate forums for the governing board. The Engaged Arizona Town Hall, known for its long history of bringing together the community for civil discourse on issues of state import, to help moderate these forums. It's my pleasure tonight to introduce our volunteer moderator, Miss Lisa Atkins, a highly experienced Arizona Town Hall moderator. Lisa Atkins is the Vice President for Public Policy at Greater Phoenix Leadership, a business leader organization whose focus is the economic strength and vitality of the Phoenix region and the state of Arizona. Prior to Lisa joining GPL, she served as Chief of Staff for Congressman Bob Stump with a focus on land, water, and military issues, and as the Executive Director of Arizona's County Supervisors Association. Lisa's current public service includes being elected board member and board secretary of the Central Arizona Water Conservation District, co-chair of the Governor's Military Affairs Commission, and chairman of the State Salary Commission. Lisa is a member of Arizona Town Hall and has served on both its board and executive committee. Please help me welcome Lisa to begin our event. Thank you.
Always nice when you bring your own cheering section. I love that. Thank you all very much for a warm welcome on a warm evening. I'm particularly delighted that you're all here. It's the end of the week. It's Friday, and it's Friday evening. So thank you very much for spending your evening with us. As was mentioned, I have a long history with the Arizona Town Hall. It's an organization of which I'm very proud. It's a nonprofit, nonpartisan organization with a 50-year history in the state of Arizona. And it has served and it continues to serve as the catalyst for civic engagement in every corner of the state. We educate, we engage, and we empower citizen leadership and impact public policy across the state of Arizona. The importance of civil engagement and civil discourse is why you're here tonight, and I appreciate that. And our major goal is to learn tonight. To learn from you about what's on your mind, to learn from the candidates about what's on their mind, to empower you with that information, and to encourage you to go out and put it to good use in this election cycle. We have two candidates in this district, Jean McGrath and Randolph Lum. Mrs. McGrath and Mr. Lum will be answering questions that we already have written, and as well as those that you're going to be writing on your cards. We are going to give them 3 minutes each for an opening statement, and as they just had an event similar to this over at Estrella Mountain, we're going to, and Mrs. McGrath started that evening, we're going to start this evening with Mr. Lum. So will you go ahead and begin with your opening statement, 3 minutes.
Good afternoon, and thanks for giving me up a Friday evening. I know you'd rather be out eating pizza or doing something better right now, but I appreciate people being here. My name is Randolph Lum. I'm running for re-election for the governing board. I've been on the governing board 5.5 years. Out of high school, I went to Northern Arizona University and got a degree in political science. I worked in the real estate field for a little while, my mother's business, and then I came to Phoenix and worked in the governor's office. And I worked for the Department of Economic Security as a contract administrator. And then I decided to get my master's in social work from Arizona State University. Right after that, as soon as I got my master's, I became a school counselor at Tolleson Elementary School District. I enjoyed that. I was there for 12 years. When I left there, I was a clinical director at the Arizona State Prison West, where I was clinical director for the DUI program. It was a DUI prison, and it was 500 men, all with a DUI, and they had to have 2.5 hours of classes. And currently, I'm a contract counselor. I do substance abuse groups and domestic violence groups. I'm running for re-election because I believe there's certain issues I want to get accomplished and certain things I want to work on. Of course, student success, but I want to work on dual enrollment, and that's how student success is. We don't have as much dual enrollment on the west side as the east side, so I'm working with the West Side Valley schools, the school boards, the superintendents, and trying to encourage more students dual enrollment. I think if you're taking dual enrollment classes in high school, you are a college student. You're going to see your future in college, and you're going to see that you can succeed in high school, and you won't be as reluctant to come to high school. I also believe that the community college is the gateway to bring people out of poverty, to bring people who are low income into the middle class and maintain the middle class, because education is their way out. And we get a lot of students coming here unprepared, and our doors are wide open to them, and we do the remedial program, developmental ed. We make sure they can get through that as best they can, as fast as they can. And what we know is students who don't come unprepared need a little more care, and they will end up dropping out. So we want to prepare them. So that's why I think it's important with those two issues that I get reelected to the governing board.
Thank you, Mr. Lum. Mrs. McGrath?
Thank you, Ms. Atkins. I bring a lot of experience in government to the board. I served in the Arizona State Legislature, and I also served on the same board that Ms. Atkins currently serves on, the board of the Central Arizona Project, which delivers half of Arizona's share of the Colorado River water to us. When I was in the Arizona State House of Representatives, I was chairman of the Public Institutions and Universities Committee. Public institutions was prisons, and I've often wondered if there was a correlation there between the two, but worked out well. Anyway, my proudest award I received as chairman of that committee. I fought tirelessly for student tuition being lowered, and I received an award of Friend of the Education from the Associated Students of the Arizona State Universities. It was a wonderful award, and I'm still very proud of that because I continue to be an advocate for lower tuition. That's one of the reasons I'm running. The tuition has been increased 63% in the last 10 years here in the district, and as far as I'm concerned, that doesn't need to be. I also served on the Appropriations Committee, so I understand budgeting, understand how government should be financed. Each year that I was in the legislature, I was awarded the Friend of the Taxpayers Award, and also I was awarded Guardian of the Taxpayer by the National Federation of Independent Businesses. I served as president of the Salvation Army South Mountain Youth and Family Center, and I'm a very proud life member of the Salvation Army Women's Auxiliary. I'm in my old stopping ground here. I was a graduate of one of the first classes of Glendale Leadership and Development. Currently, I am president of Peoria Glendale Farm Bureau, and I serve on the board of Maricopa County Farm Bureau Board of Directors. I'm also a member of the Arizona Nursery Association, and I serve on the scholarship committee for that. And if you apply for a scholarship with the Nursery Association, beware, because I've instituted the policy that we check your spelling and your grammar in your application, because it's very important to us. I've been active in community and politics for years. I'm very proud that the Maricopa Community College District is not only the largest in the nation, but is probably the largest in the entire world, and I am very certain that it is the very best, and I want to be on the board to continue that good reputation and good work that the colleges are doing.
Thank you both for your introductory statements, your opening statements. Let's move into a couple of questions. You're each going to have 2 minutes. We will reverse the order for the second so that nobody feels that they're on cue to to be the first answer. So your first question tonight, and Mr. Lum will ask you to answer first, and then Mrs. McGrath. The first question is, if elected, what are your key policy objectives for your term in office? What do you most hope to accomplish as a member of the Maricopa County Community College District Governing Board? Mr. Lum?
I think my key policy objective is to govern through policy governance as opposed to getting involved in me making local and decisions that should be made by the president. I stated my two of them. One is the dual enrollment. I want to make sure that is done. We have dual and concurrent enrollment. So concurrent enrollment is where a high school student is taking a college class that's both credit for high school and college credit, but they're actually coming to the college to take that class. And we have 4 charter schools at 4 different, one of our colleges that does that. Also student success. We have some student success initiatives. We're analyzing how we can get more students through. We have like a 55% dropout rate, and we need to change that. That's not acceptable. So we're really working on that. We're finding out how we can do that. Now that takes money. So we're looking at some mentoring programs. We did implement a lot of things here. The students probably are aware of that, such as mandatory orientation. We have a study class program that they need to take, so they're prepared. So those are my 2 priorities.
Thank you. Mrs. McGrath?
For a policy objective, I would like to see the community college district make college more affordable for the students, and I would like to make it more affordable for the taxpayers. The current board has been on a path of increased spending, and they have increased tuition 63% in the last 10 years, and they keep increasing the tax rate every year. And the current tax rate has just been increased by 21%. That includes the bond that they have out there and the district tax. And I think that the board needs to get some better budgeting policies. We wouldn't budget the way they do in our own households. They, every time they have a problem that they confront, they decide to spend money to solve it. And that doesn't seem to solve anything because it increases the dropout rate because it makes college less affordable for you. It also does not endear you to the legislature or the taxpayers. I attended one forum where everyone complained that the legislature didn't give you enough money, but the way you keep spending and blowing money, it's no wonder they don't want to give you any money, plus the fact they don't have any money to give you. It's a sad situation that money is so tight right now, that the economy is so bad, but the state's in debt, the federal government's in debt. They owe $17 trillion, and we need to find ways to cut the budget and cut at the expenses for the taxpayers and the students.
Thank you both very much. We're going to move on to the second question. Again, 2-minute answers, and we'll reverse the order of answers this time. Mrs. McGrath will go first. Mr. Lum will go second. What makes you the best candidate to serve on the governing board representing District 4 and the county as a whole? Mrs. McGrath?
Thank you, Lisa. I understand government, and I understand how to budget the money. When I served in the legislature, I was very pleased with the staff. They are very happy to do what you direct them to do because you are the elected official. When I've served on other boards, I've discovered that staff kind of ignores the elected board members and does what they want to do. And I think I hope that's been the case, that all these problems haven't been the fault of the board. In 2011, there was a huge information technology leak, and it never made it to the board level. The chancellor never reported that to them. The board found out about it in 2013 when the FBI called and said, your information is being offered for sale on a website on the internet. And so then they started addressing the problem. First thing they did was they spent $5 million hiring a Chicago law firm. And then a little bit later, they decided that that really wasn't the best idea to hire only a Chicago law firm. So they spent $2.7 million hiring a local law firm. It just baffles you that they didn't turn to information technology people who could have solved their problem a lot better and tightened it up for a lot less money. Very frustrating situation, and I know how to deal with budgets. I've done that a lot. Thank you.
Mr. Lum?
I spent the last 5.5 years trying to become the best board member I can. I'm not a administrator of a college, so I had to come in and learn as much as I can, as fast as I can. And I think I spent, I go to about 3 meetings a week. I'm committed to improving this college and making it better and support what we're doing. We have two funding sources: taxes and tuition. If you do not ever vote, if you come in with a policy, you're never going to vote for a tax increase, how do we continue to be the best college in the United States? How do we become to be this best organization? How do we give these students the quality education we need? If you decide to lower tuitions, I would love to lower tuitions, but they asked for tuition increase for $5. I said no. We're going to allow $3. So we're trying to keep costs low. And but how do you do the programs we're doing, be the college we are, and come in with a philosophy of cutting taxes, cutting tuition? I think you're going to take this college back to the 1950s, and I think I'm committed to making this the best colleges. We have some outstanding efforts that we're doing, and they cost money. We have at this college a 3D copier that we're having the engineer students and the architecture students take their level of education to the most recent update, the most recent knowledge and skills that they can get.
Thank you. We do have some questions from the audience. Thank you very much, and I know I can see some of you writing more questions. First, though, I want to read a statement because I think it's an aspirational statement which both of you will find interesting. I am going to this school as my birthday present from my sister Debbie. I never knew everyone at school. I would like to be a good secretary in an organization and organize everything. Sorry, I'm reading my glasses. I don't have my glasses with me. I would like to be a good secretary. I'm organized. Everything I would like to work behind the desk, and I will be good at it. And that's from a student at Glendale Community College, and I think that talks to the aspiration of the students in the district. So let me ask you a couple of questions that the students have asked and some of our audience members have asked. When did you, and Mr. Lum, you will go first, and Mrs. McGrath, you will go second. We'll stick to the 2-minute limit again in these questions as well, and I'm going to combine these next two questions because I think they both speak to the same thing. When did you first realize that you wanted to become a member of the governing board, and what made you decide to actually run for the governing board? Mr. Lum?
I was the governing board at the Pendergast Elementary School District for 8 years, and I didn't run again after that, so because I needed to work on my master's, and I couldn't do the master's, the family, and the 40-hour-a-week job. So I came in with that experience. I've been an activist in the community, on several boards and commissions. 2 of them were appointed by the governor. And some faculty members asked me to run, and they know my commitment. So after some discussion with my wife, I decided to run. But it's my commitment to making success. I didn't come here to be popular and to make more friends. I come here to be serious, make this the best school ever, ask questions, question the budget, question the spending, put more spending in the classroom, not in administration. And I'm the one that asked for an audit or brought in a company to come in outside to say, let's look at the spending here. How can we save money? So under a lot of controversy and a lot of criticism, we went ahead and did this. They came in and made recommendations on how we can cut money, and was administration overspending on monies, and they said they didn't think they were, and here's where you can cut. They want to just implement the program themselves, and I said, no, we implement it as a team. We do things as a team here. I want to know, here's the recommendations. Let's talk to the president and how they think they're going to do that. So I think I've been a strong advocate of cutting spending, taking care of this college, and making sure that we spend money on the students.
Thank you. Mrs. McGrath?
The first question is, why are you running, and what's the second part, please?
When did you first realize that you wanted to become part of the governing board, and what was it that actually made you decide to run for a board member position?
I think when I realized that I wanted to be a member of the board was when I discovered how loose they are with their budgeting practices. They have a budget of $1.8 billion a year, and it's climbing. And in contrast to that, Maricopa County's entire budget for this year is $2.2 billion, not very much more than the entire community college district, and they don't seem to be very inclined to cut. There's approximately a $5 million a year travel budget. The board, at the end of the January board meeting, the board president announced that they were going to go to D.C. the next week to call on the congressional delegation to ask them for more money. I was stunned at that because you don't need to go to D.C. to interact with your senator and congressman. They all have offices here. There are only 3 of them in the state that don't have offices in Maricopa County. Much easier to travel to Flagstaff to visit that office than to fly to D.C. And then I discovered at the last forum that not only did they go and ask for money from the congressional delegation, but they stayed and had training on how to be a good board member. Terrible waste of tax dollars. I see books in bookstores that say how to be a good member. I just am astounded that they have such low regard for the taxpayer and the students' funds that they work with. They spend money that is unnecessary in all kinds of places. I used to be in the nursery business. I'm horrified at the amount that they obviously spend on landscaping. They run around and trim every plant every week. It's main reason I'm running is to show them how to budget better, and I know that it can be done.
Our next question is, in an organization of highly trained, educated, and dedicated professionals, such as the Maricopa County Community College District, could you describe what you would consider to be an ideal salary advancement plan for employees? And I'll repeat it because it's a lengthy question. In an organization of highly trained, educated, and dedicated professionals, such as Maricopa County Community College District, could you describe what you would consider to be an ideal salary advancement plan for employees? Mrs. McGrath, we'll start with you, followed by Mr. Lum.
I've never had to do salaries for professionals. I've done salaries at my farm and at my other business, but not with professionals. I would assume that there are steps that in the salary advancement for time and employment, steps for advancement in your own education, steps for doing an excellent job. I have a feeling that there are programs that define how you should do salary advancement. I know they do that for K through 12. The school districts have plans, and I would imagine they might translate over to community colleges.
Mr. Lum?
Well, I think we should do a combination of merit, look at the merit of the person who's working, and also a fairness application, that we're not being unfair to one person because he's more popular or we like him better, he or she, if we like him better. So I think that kind of advancement program. But I'd like to address some of the misinformation that we just heard. Yes, we have a $1.5 billion budget, but actually our budget of college is about $700,000. The rest is bonding money that we got from the public to build buildings. So it's not, it sounds bigger than it is. It's not really that big of a job. And when we went to Washington, D.C., Washington, D.C. is different now. It's not the same place it used to be. The staff run, as you know, the staff run the bills. They do the research. They're the ones we need to talk to. They're the ones that write the bills. They're the ones that do the legislation, and they all have different expertises in that. And of course, they keep the legislature informed. So we mainly visit with the staff. We do go there for training. The training wasn't how to be a better board member. The training was learning about federal monies, learning about federal projects, and we went there for the students. We went there to talk to them about Pell Grants. If we don't have Pell Grants at this school, we have like 67% of the students on Pell Grants. And if we didn't keep advocating for those, and we let the congressmen let that slide, and they just go, well, we don't have the money. Well, they don't have the money because they don't make it a priority. They don't make students a priority, and I'm there demanding that we make students a priority.
We have more questions from the audience. Thank you all very much for that. Mr. Lum will ask you this question first and then followed by Mrs. McGrath for a response. How will you improve student success? How will you improve student success? Mr. Lum?
Student success in a lot of ways. First of all, we need to make sure we have a strong developmental program. So if they come in at reading at a 6th grade level and not reading at college level, we need to make sure they get through a really good program, the best program we have, research and skills as far as how to get them through that faster and get their skills up. And that includes identifying individual skills. So maybe they'll have some algebra skills that are good and some that are weak in, and we need to identify which ones are weak in and focus on where on their weaknesses. There's a whole bunch of things we're doing to that. First of all, we make it a commitment that every college president has to have increased their passage rate by 2020 50%, and we're on target for that. And they're come up with a plan on how to improve student success, because that's our priority. Other ways is mentor programs, some self-tutor programs. We need more so they can come here and they can look up stuff like the Khan Academy, which teaches math skills. So there's different computer programs and stuff that we can guide them to help them learn the skills they need. We're also trying to not make them pay for textbooks. We're doing open resources as much as possible, because some of these textbooks cost, a couple $100s. So we're trying to make it affordable that way, because there's a lot of ways we can get them.
Mrs. McGrath?
I don't know how you make other people be successful. I think the students are probably doing a pretty darn good job. They talk about the dropout rate. I know I enrolled in community college 4 different times, very happily took the class I enrolled in, and then I didn't take another class for a while, and so I'm part of that dropout rate that they keep wanting to solve, and I talk to other people and they have the very same experience. I think you offer counselors if they need counselors. Keep the costs as low as possible so they don't have so much stress. It's a lot of things you can do. I talked to a fellow who was an adjunct professor in accounting, and I told him that there was a push by the federal administration to make the colleges lower the dropout rate. And he said, that's odd. He said, there was a survey done about 12 years ago and about dropout rates, and they discovered the number one reason people drop out is because they're not ready to do college work. The number 2 reason is the cost. The number 3 reason is their job interferes, and the number 4 reason is they move away. And the number 1 reason, I don't know that we can do anything about it. I know we have remedial classes, but we've had a horrible breakdown in our kindergarten through 12th grade education system. They do not all uniformly teach children how to read with phonics, and there are 25% of the children who cannot learn to read by any other method. The look-say memorization method does not work very well for them, and if you cannot read well, you do not succeed in any of your classes. Pretty soon you become the class clown and drop out and at home, and it's a real problem. It helps increase the gang membership recruitment. And I think the best way to help the students is make certain everyone learns to read. And they do have reading programs here at the college. Thank you.
The next question will begin with Mrs. McGrath, followed by Mr. Lum. And the question is, what is your plan to lower tuition? Mrs. McGrath?
Stop the spending. Stop the wasteful spending. They've spent so much money on the Information Technology League, it's just absolutely astounding. And as I understand it, they're up to $18 million and climbing. And that was addressed in a very poor fashion and wasn't addressed rapidly enough. They have a program that says that over the next 5 years, and this is to mitigate the dropout rate, they plan to hire 360 new full-time professors. That is just going to be astronomical in cost, because when you have full-time people, you have huge payroll costs associated with one of those persons. It's almost double what their salary is by the time you figure in pensions and all of your benefits, health care and such. And you're much better off with adjunct professors, not for every class. You need people that are there for your basic classes, but for your specialty classes, you certainly can do very well with adjunct. And right now, the percentage is 60% adjunct professors and 40% full-time professors. And we're the best college district in the country, and I think that we don't need to change this professor ratio and increase the cost. So that's one way I would definitely decrease the costs.
Mr. Lum?
I think we need to get the legislators to make education a priority. They defunded us $48 million, and they started making tax cuts to businesses, and I said, we're just not a priority. I think we need to encourage businesses, but they shouldn't have a totally free ride. The other thing we need to do is keep an eye on the dollar, and we're there. We're on top of every president, every budget, every department saying, we want to keep costs down, we need to watch every penny. That's very important. We don't want to see any wasteful spending. We don't want to see excess spending. When you talk about, let me see, let me mention one thing, another comment regarding student success. We have done some student success at South Mountain, some great student success here in the remedial program, where at South Mountain, we got this passage rate of 94% of the students doing mentoring, but mentoring takes a little money, so there is ways to be successful. We're working with the high schools to make sure when the students come up that they know what our standards are, and we're helping them out, so we're in partnership, so they're putting out a better product. We know now the high school students that are coming here now from high school are better than the ones coming 5 years ago. So the high schools have done their job. They've gotten better. Of course, it always needs to be even better, but they have gotten an improvement rate. So the main thing is working with the legislature, the leaders, making students a priority, and watching our dollars.
Thank you. We are going to move away from fiscal issues for a moment, and Mr. Lum will have you answer this question first, followed by Mrs. McGrath. What has Maricopa County Community College District done for student veterans in the last 2 years? What should the district be doing? What has Maricopa County Community College District done for student veterans in the last 2 years, and what should the district be doing? Mr. Lum?
I love this question. We really need to take care of our veterans. They're coming back here, a lot of them with PTSD, so we have counselors programs. We're maintaining our counselors programs. I noticed that a lot of the high school districts, with their cutbacks, they cut back all the counseling programs. We have not increased our counseling program very much, but we have definitely kept it up. We put a veteran center in every college now. We have a veteran center where they have a space to come, get together, use computers, support each other, and we have a one-stop center for veterans. They can come to our one-stop center, and they get special help for veterans. So we've done a lot for veterans. I've been to 3 different open at centers with Rio and the different colleges, Estrella Mountain and Glendale here, where we had veteran centers, and I come to those openings. I think we have gotten an A+ on taking care of our veterans. We can always do better. We make sure we track them, make sure they get the help they need. But like I said, I'm a social worker. I'm a counselor, and I understand that PTSD does to you as far as it's hard to have good social skills. It's hard to things become overwhelming and stressful, and you need a good support system and someone helping them, encouraging them all along the way.
Mrs. McGrath?
I'm very pleased to hear Mr. Lum describe the current program. It sounds wonderful. Our veterans need every break that they can get, and I know they especially need help with the PTSD problems. I think that there might be a way to help them navigate the costs, help them with scholarships, help them with their veterans benefits so that they can figure out how to enroll and get those costs down. And lots of counseling for them. I think that's a big priority because many of them do have a lot of problems from the stress of having served.
We have another programmatic question, and Mrs. McGrath will ask you to go first, and then Mr. Lum. Many community colleges have the ACE program. What are your viewpoints on the ACE program? Should it be continued the way it is, or should it be changed? And if it should be changed, what are the ways in which it should be changed?
Would you translate ACE program?
I will look to some of my experts in the audience to help me with that one. I'm sorry? Achieving a college education, ACE. So let me repeat the question now that we know what ACE stands for, Achieving a College Education.
Can I say something about what it is? Would that help? I don't want to mess
Sure.
up the order. The ACE program is the program where we have high school students come to our colleges. We have it at each college, and now we have a Native American ACE, and they can take, they get support, they get mentoring, and they go to school on Friday and Saturday, and they can get 12 hours of counseling, of tuition paid free. So you have to get into the program, and so I'll let Jean comment on that program if she.
You want to comment, or do you want Mr. Lum to go ahead and finish?
I've never heard of this. It
Yeah.
baffles me a little bit about why you have students come in for 1 day a week and give them free tuition. It doesn't seem fair to the other students to be giving tuition away for free. Achieving a college education is a great ideal, and but I know so little about it that I can't imagine how in the world it works other than if you do anything other than having high school seniors in.
Mr. Lum, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, the ACE program, I would like to see it expanded and supported. We're kind of running out of funds. Congressman Pastor started this program with some federal monies, and this program is targeted for students who are first in their family go to college are a priority. High-achieving, low-income students, you have to be low-income and you have to apply. So that's why it's so advantageous. So we're trying to give these students a head start and a step up. And I see many successes for that. These kids otherwise do not think they can come to college. They do not think they have the support to come to college and don't. So we do a lot of work with the parents. We work with the families. That way, the family's not telling them, oh, you don't know to get to high school, you just go get married and you'll be fine, but encourages them. So the ACE program is also awesome. We expanded to Native Americans. So it is for the low income. We don't target minorities, but it's been, most the minorities have been attending it, but it's for everybody. But it's for low income, to give them a step in.
Let's go back to a couple of fiscal questions. Mr. Lum will ask you to answer first, and then Mrs. McGrath. What would be your top 2 or 3 spending priorities? What would be your top 2 or 3 spending priorities? Mr. Lum?
Oh, student success. Top 2, 3 spending is, I think we need to maintain what we have. I mean, we need to get a base and say what students need, and then how do we improve that. So we got the core classes that students need from us, and then we start expanding. How can we improve that? A priority is the students that are unprepared. I think we need to help them. I feel very strongly that this is their way out. We're here to help the low income. We're here to help the middle class. We're here to help people that can't afford to go to college. The high achieving student with money, they're going to go to universities anyway. If they come here to save money, they're welcome. But I think we're the difference between some people being poor the rest of their life and then being in the middle class and above and being professionals. So it's up to us. My priority is student success, and there's a lot of ways to do that. Like I say, we're studying it and we've been analyzing it a lot. It's very sophisticated and very difficult. We saw that mentoring programs, we have some different learning styles that we're finding out that work better than other learning styles. And I think giving the students the full experience. I think at this school here, we probably have about 53 different activities that they can participate in. So they're not only coming to college just, learn to read, write, and arithmetic and then go home. They're active. They're learning leadership skills. They're learning active skills. They're learning global skills. They're learning how to think. They're learning about cultures. They're learning about art. They're learning about a whole gamut. And a lot of our money has to go into IT. We need to keep them with the top, most up-to-date technology.
Mrs. McGrath?
This is money that we're going to spend.
Yes. Your top 2 or 3 spending priorities.
Well, since this is the best system in the country, I think that they're probably doing the right thing as to what they spend the money on. Obviously, you need good professors, and you need a good atmosphere for the students to learn in. And I think they're probably doing a wonderful job right now. I don't know any way you would redirect other than making it more affordable, and that involves cutting rather than spending, better budgeting rather than cutting. And you're going to have to do that because you talk about getting money from the federal government. The federal government's $17 trillion in debt. Every new money that they spend, they print, and that reduces the value of our current money in our pocketbook, and that doesn't work so well. So we need to figure ways to keep on with the excellent job we're doing without increasing spending.
The next question will begin with Mrs. McGrath, followed by Mr. Lum. What is your position on guns on campus? What is your position on guns on campus? Mrs. McGrath?
I think it's been shown that campuses where there are absolutely no guns allowed, creating a gun-free zone is very dangerous for the students. All the places where they've had these mass shootings with deranged people, mentally ill people, it's been in a safe place for the shooter. Criminals don't care about your gun laws. They're going to commit their criminal act whether there's a law against it or not. If everybody obeyed the laws, we wouldn't have any criminal acts performed anywhere, and that applies equally well to not carrying guns anywhere. And I think it's a very good idea to allow people who have gun permits, who've taken gun training, with our concealed carry permit. I've taken that class, and it's very intensive at that time, 2-day class. I learned a great deal, and especially how to be safe with guns. And so I'm in favor of if people have a concealed carry permit, to allow them to bring guns on, because I feel much safer around people who are trained and who have a gun with them than when I'm in a place where I'm a target for some nut that wants to bring their gun in and shoot them up and know that no one is going to shoot back at them.
Mr. Lum?
Well, from the experts, what they're telling me, the security people and our security people here, is if everyone's packing a gun, they don't know who the enemy is. So they prefer us to keep and enforce the law that says no guns allowed on college campuses. I don't think it's safe. I don't think they should be here. I don't think we should have the professors, the faculty carrying guns. I think there should be no guns, because I think it's safer because we have security, they know what to do, and I don't think someone crazy with a gun is going to start shooting because they don't know who to shoot at and stuff like that. It'll be just havoc and unsafe. And we have done a lot of stuff for security here. We have emergency management team here, and in our emergency management program, we will text you, we will send you emails, we'll Twitter you, we'll put it on the website. We have loudspeakers, we have bullhorns and sirens, we have flashing strobes and a message board. So we do all we can. We practice safety, we practice lockdowns. So we do all we can to keep this campus safe. We also hire more policemen that are certified policemen. It did cost us some more money, so we had to invest in some money to make more certified policemen. But so we have a good combination of certified and non-certified security. But we have more security staff that know what they're doing, know how to protect the students, and keep this place safe.
Mr. Lum will ask you to answer the next question first, followed by Mrs. McGrath. My daughter tells me the Maricopa Community Colleges are perceived as a lesser choice to continue a high schooler's education. How do you change that perception to show the viability of coming to the Maricopa County Community Colleges? And since it was lengthy, let me repeat it. My daughter tells me that the Maricopa County Community Colleges are perceived as a lesser choice to continue a high schooler's education. How do you change that perception to show the viability of coming to the Maricopa County Community Colleges? Mr. Lum?
I think we need to improve our imaging, that's for sure, and tell our story. I think it's out there. If you talk to the students, they'll tell you this is a good place to come. What statistically we know that the students that go to ASU, and we're gathering this information, and most of our students go from here to ASU, that they pass at the same or higher rate than the student who goes directly from high school to ASU. So we're doing an awesome job, and we're very proud of it. ASU is very proud of us also. So I think we improved in that way. We need to tell our story. We're a bargain, you know. We're a good price. You know, I talked to some students paying a lot of money at these private schools. They're in debt, you know, $20,000 as soon as they sign. And if they drop out, they're still in debt, $20,000. Now they have no degree. But here you pay as you go. So we're the best bargain. We need to tell our story. We need to work on some imaging. I would like to see our imaging where we're called Maricopa College District and not change our name, but use that as our imaging because a lot of people totally identify with just the college they go to. And we need to market ourselves a little more. But by word of mouth and hitting the right people, not everybody. I don't think our budget should be spent on magazine ads and that kind of thing as far as our imaging and talking to people.
Mrs. McGrath?
Good public relation system goes a long ways. They have a wonderful program. I think it's on Saturday nights about the Maricopa Community College District system. And it's just amazing what they show about what the students are doing throughout the system. It's wonderful, shows the specialty programs that they have. Perhaps get in touch with more of the high school counselors and let them know what's going on here and somehow change that perception that is obviously false because we do have a great system here.
Mrs. McGrath will ask you to answer the next question first, followed by Mr. Lum. What is the role of the faculty in the community colleges?
Obviously, the role is to do the best job they can instructing the students, making certain that they have the most success in whichever discipline they're in, excelling at it. And I'm assuming from what I hear that we have excellent staff. I know that I've not heard any problems about the staff here, that they do a good job teaching.
Mr. Lum?
The role of the faculty are very different than a high school teacher. They are the leaders, they are the experts, and so we like to give them a stronger role. They're in there solving the problems. When you ask us where we want budget cuts, where we want to improve for students, where we want to do for student success, we have faculty committees. That's how we lead this university. They are very important. So when you're talking about the ratio of faculty to adjunct, we need to do a balance there. What we did is when we negotiate with fairness and give everybody a voice with the faculty, and we said, yes, your priority is we should have more faculty than increase our faculty rate than adjunct, and we agree. And we're only going to do this when we have the budget to do it. We're not going to do it just without the monies, without the dollars, without raising those dollars being a burden on the taxpayers or the students. So that's a commitment. But the faculty are the experts. I don't think you want the insurance company telling your doctor what surgical tools, what tests you need, what surgery procedures you need. I think you, just like we don't want the president of Glendale College telling the nursing school what's best to teach and how to teach it and where they need to cut in all ways. And so we need to respect them, we need to give them a voice, and we need to pay attention to them.
Our students have left us, but I have one last question from them. I have found Maricopa County Community College and Glendale Community College, very student success friendly. Personally, the cost of tuition is fairly low. With budget cuts, this will affect student success by taking away valuable resources like clubs and organizations that ensure success. Cutting the cost of tuition may jeopardize free tutoring and other resources offered. How do you plan to keep these resources available while cutting the budget? And Mr. Lum, will ask you to go first on that. Would you like me to repeat it?
No. But did you let Ms. Graff answer the question about faculty?
I apologize. Thank you for catching that. Let's go back and repeat that question. Mrs. McGrath, the question was, what is the role of the faculty in community colleges? And I apologize for not catching that. We're going back to the question. I failed to afford you an opportunity to answer that question. She did. That's what I thought.
answered that.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Perhaps not a wonderful answer because nobody remembered it. Sorry about that.
All right, Mr. Lund, let's start again. I'll read this again since.
Okay, no, I understand the question. I understand the question. It's about resources, you know. The students are saying, if I'm going to hear cut taxes and cut tuition, is there any money for them, right? We have some clubs here that we appreciate. We learn leadership. We learn social skills. We learn art. We learn computer technology. We learn all these different things, and we learn to meet people and make this a wonderful experience. And I think we need to do it diligently. We need to keep the students in mind. We keep these programs budgeted, and like I say, we watch our dollars, but I don't think we can go back to taxes, to tuition back in the, down to $20, $25. I don't see it.
Mrs. McGrath, do you want me to repeat the question?
No, thank
Okay.
you. I think that's a false assumption that you're going to cut programs and after-school activities and various things by cutting expenses. I think the travel budget could certainly be reduced. It's about $5 million a year. Baffles me why anyone other than the athletic teams need to travel outside of Maricopa County in order to successfully operate this community college district. Brian McNeil, who's head of the Arizona Department of Administration, told me that he is constantly losing his employees at the state of Arizona because they're being hired away at a much higher wage to the community colleges. That's nice for the employees, but it's not necessary. They have a huge lobbying budget here. They have a lobbying firm in Washington, D.C. that they have on contract. They have quite a few contract lobbyists here who lobby the state legislature. And then they have a lobbying staff here. You do need a lobbyist, but you do not need all of these 3 different lobbyists. I'd be in favor of having one contract lobbyist, and that certainly wouldn't affect any of the student programs. They can do a great deal with their landscape contracts. As I understand it, that's not contracted out, and you do save money even if you pay the same wages paid when you make a contract with someone. You save a lot of money because you're not paying any of those payroll expenses, which almost double the pay. I'm sorry that the students thought that by cutting tuition and cutting the budget that it would affect any of them in any way. It wouldn't affect classes or programs as far as I can tell.
Mrs. McGrath will ask you to answer the next question first, and then Mr. Lum. Maricopa County Community College District's tribal and Native American enrollment is higher than the 3 state universities combined, but graduation rates are extremely low. How can we increase their success and address their challenges? Mrs. McGrath?
From what you're saying, the Native American population has a harder time integrating into community colleges than other student populations. I would hope that their tribes would have a program for them. I'm quite certain the Navajo do, that they work with their students. And I'm assuming that they have counselors here that are very good at specializing in working with the Native American people. It is a problem that is not insurmountable, but with lots of personnel working on it, it can be overcome.
Mr. Lum?
It's a problem, and we want to see Native Americans and all people be successful. But there's a specific population. We have Hoops of Learning, which is a program that helps Native Americans. I think we need to do more mentoring. We also need to involve the community more. We need to bring community members and some of these nonprofit tribal organizations on to help us work with the Native Americans and help them. I think more mentoring will help them, and more guidance. They tend to have a lot of social and economic needs. I think we need to bring some counselors. We need to help with those. Transportation needs and these kind of needs. We need to look to see what specific needs are and be more targeting and do more outreach and see if the tribes and the community will help us more. But we do have a program for the Hoops of Learning, and now we have Hoops of Learning has, the Native American has an age program for them. So we are trying to outreach them, and we're working more with the tribes. We're talking to the Gila River tribe right now to take over one of the charter schools. So we're just in the talking stage right now, but we are constantly working with the Native Americans and the tribes and the nonprofits such as Native American Connection.
Mr. Lum will ask you to answer this question first, and then Mrs. McGrath. Community colleges are supposed to be two-year institutions, but we see students graduating in 3 and 4 years. What ideas do you have to increase and encourage timely graduation? Mr. Lum?
It's a lot of, when I went to college, I did a calculation. I had to take 15 hours a semester to do it in 4 years, right? And most of these students, they come here and they're overwhelmed with 15 hours. They need to do 12 or 6 and to get started. So I don't think we need to make that a priority. The priority is the student. How much time can you do it in? When do you want to do it in? I mean, do you have a family? Do you have a job? Do you have a nana you need to take care of? There's other factors out there. I'm talking about dual enrollment. If you start taking college classes in high school, you're gonna get done faster, right? You start doing the ACE program, you're gonna get done faster. So we're out there. We're working with them, and these are the kind of things we're doing for them. I did want to mention a couple things with Mrs. McGrath commented on as far as lobbying. I agree. We only need one firm. We have some good lobbyists. I don't care if we get rid of the Washington, D.C. firm and the other firm. The travel budget. Travel is real complex. I don't think we waste money as a district. You need to be an intelligent board. You can't be just like coming here shooting from the hip. So you need to go to board training. You need to go to some national conferences. You need to get involved in that. But here we have 10 different schools. If we call a meeting at the district office, who's going to pay for that? Some of these people have their jobs is to travel around. So transportation is not merely the athletes. It's a complex program, and we try to keep an eye on that. And I'm sure the president's saying, hey, how can I cut my travel budget? She's looking at that every time. So we have our eye on the needle with that.
Mrs. McGrath?
Well, I think that the rate at which a student progresses through college is up to him. Quite often, the students at community colleges are working a full-time job and fitting in their education as best they can. I know we have a lot of married students, a lot of night students, and I think it's entirely up to the student as to which way they navigate through college, and I don't know why someone would expect them to accelerate their pace if they're unable to because of their financial restrictions and work obligations and family obligations. It's up to each student how they manage their education, how many years they spend here.
Let's continue along that theme, and Mrs. McGrath will ask you to answer first, and then Mr. Lum. Bachelor's degrees are 4-year degrees, so the question would be, should the community colleges pursue being authorized to offer 4-year degrees? Mrs. McGrath?
I don't see any need for another 4-year institution. 4-year institutions cost a lot more than 2-year institutions, and I think we're better off being the most successful and best community college district in the world rather than trying to morph into something different that we were never planned to be. And we don't need a 4-year institution here. We have the universities very close here. Right here, we have ASU West, which is a wonderful school, and I just don't see the need of it because a lot of students prefer the community college district. The seniors especially like the community college district. They like to take the classes offered at Rio Salado, and I think it fills a very vital need for the community and for the students to stay at a 2-year school.
Mr. Lum?
I think people are proposing that because they say if I can keep a 4-year degree at the cost the community college does it, what a great deal we are doing for service for people. I don't know if we can do that, but I think we can keep it down. I'm open. I'm not advocating for it. People are throwing it at us, and we're thinking, well, maybe a few colleges, right? Maybe colleges that don't cost a lot of technical money. I think we could do a really good job at education, maybe general business, and those 2 degrees. I'm not sure what else. We could do that, but I'm open. I'm not going to advocate for it. Our job is big enough, but if we can keep the cost down and help people get through faster, I'm willing to give it a try and start with just a few degrees.
Mr. Lum, what do you think is the biggest challenge for the current governing board? And if you'll answer that question first, then we'll have Mrs. McGrath answer it. What do you think is the biggest challenge for the current governing board?
Well, I think our biggest challenge is manipulating through and maintaining a system and growing our system and improving our system with limited resources. And that's always going to be our biggest challenge. And hopefully we're up to it. We need to look at our spending. We need to look at what we need to have, not would like to have. We need to look at the role of education and how we're doing it. And we also need to look at the changes in the world, right? Some jobs are no longer around, and we're no longer a construction-based economy. So how can we bring other people, identify the skills, bring people in here, give them the skills, and let them get a good job, above minimum wage job, a good job that can take care of a family. That's what we're looking at all the time. What other things are out there? We have a lot of certifications we've improved on, like Cisco and other computer certifications that people can take these certifications and go get a job. So I'm always looking, what can we do to get the skills we need to get a job right away without waiting 2, 4, 6 years and get these people back in the role and bring more people back who are losing their jobs. So I care about the economy, and I think we are that bridge. And I think that's what we need to do. That's our role. We should be really working at it. And that's would be, I think, my priorities.
Mrs. McGrath?
The role of the board,
What do you think is the biggest challenge for the current governing board?
providing the same maintain the same quality of education while tightening the budget. Mr. Lum's right. Providing services that students can benefit from immediately is a wonderful idea. I have a friend that teaches the Cisco system at Phoenix College, and he tells me when people ask him, what do you do for a living? He says, I produce taxpayers. And if we could concentrate on more programs like that, it would be even better. But to maintain the wonderful system we have, but make certain that we reduce the costs. And to keep talking about going to the legislature for more money, there's no money there. I don't know if you're aware of it, but the state's $1 billion in debt. And it's going to take a long time to climb out of that. They sold the state buildings. They're now leasing them back. They've just been hit with a lawsuit for $320 million that they have to pay for K-12. The well is dry at the legislature, so you're going to have to figure out ways to make do with what you have and do your best to keep the costs under control and tighten up that budget and not lose any excellence in the education program.
We have time for a couple more questions, and Mrs. McGrath, I'll ask you to answer this one first, followed by Mr. Lum. Thinking about the teacher who had the greatest impact on you, what will you do to reward or incentivize the same kinds of traits or actions in community college teachers? Thinking about the teacher who had the greatest impact on you, what will you do to reward or incentivize the same kinds of traits or actions in community college teachers? Mrs. McGrath?
That's a wonderful question, but I don't know how in the world you make an excellent teacher. They either are or they aren't. Rewards and incentives, I'm all in favor of. If you can figure out an equitable way to reward people. I don't like the idea of paying everybody the same when not everyone teaches the same and not everyone inspires their students the same. There's got to be some kind of a level of compensation that rewards the very best, and you need to keep doing, as many of the public school districts don't do, try to weed out the worst. But I'm all in favor of keeping the very best teachers and figuring out a way to compensate them. Perhaps give them an extra day off. I don't know what you'd do, but it would depend upon what they would want. I would think perhaps you would give them a survey and say, how would you like to be compensated? What would make you happy to be pointed out as a good teacher? What works for you?
Mr. Lum?
I had some awesome teachers throughout the years, and I'm really grateful to them, both in grade school, high school, and college. And I think we have some awesome teachers here. And I think what we need to do is give them opportunity to lead. I think people who are caring and dynamic, they want to be part of the vision for the future. And I think if you give them that opportunity, we have committees they can get involved in. We can ask, we can make sure they're involved in the changes we make, keep them informed in what we're doing, keep them active in what we're doing, keep them invested in what we're doing, encourage them, motivate them, treat them with respect. And of course, monetary, we need to, we need pay that is deserving, that is equal, across the country. So when you're looking at how much we're paying the students, teachers, and stuff like that, and faculty, we're trying to do a national standard. So I think we respect involvement, giving them a voice, and they will run with it. I think people tell me that they love their job more than they get opportunities to go somewhere else for more money, but they love working here. They love the people they work with. They feel respected. They feel wanted, and that's very motivating. And I think that's a way we need to make sure we keep doing that and do it more and better and greater.
We have time for one more question before we ask you to make your 3-minute closing statements. And Mr. Lum, we'll start with you. If you do not win the election, what will you do to support Maricopa County community colleges?
I was involved before I got elected, and I'll be involved after I get elected. I'm involved in my community. I belong to several organizations. We've always been involved in make sure that the organizations, when we think they're doing something unfair, either personnel-wise or policy-wise, I'll be there at board meetings speaking up and lending my opinion. When it comes to elections, I'll be there supporting the best person, and in numerous ways I'll be involved. I believe in education. I'm not doing this for the pay, obviously, and sometimes it's a lot of work, but it's my belief that as a person is my role here to make this world better. Thank you.
Mrs. McGrath?
I would hope to become an advocate for the students and continue working on my main program of making college affordable for them, attending the board meetings and being a thorn in the side, hopefully a help in the side. But I love this system, and I think it needs all the cheerleaders it can get.
All right, Mrs. McGrath, you get the next question. And we already asked that one. What, if any, role does the college play in preparing students to be active citizens and community members? Do we do this well?
Yes, you do it very well. I know a lot of students, people who have been to school here, and they're very active, successful members of the community, and I think that the school does a good job preparing people. They have a lot of programs that students can participate in, and I think it works very well. They also have a lot of wonderful athletic programs. I'm very proud. I have a daughter who went to Phoenix College with a tennis scholarship, and she still plays tennis at a very high level, and I'm very grateful to them for that training that she got there.
Mr. Lum?
I'm trying to think of the name of the program, but I went to a program this year, and in the second year we had the Holocaust survivors, we had the survivors from Guatemala, from all over the world, Turkey, and these programs are outstanding. I've been to a lot of lectures and a lot of programs that we provide. Now, we as a policy, is global engagement. It's part of our mission, part of our policy. We have Alberto leading us in being active engagement. We have programs for, like, say, A's, Hoops of Learning. We do promotions for Native Americans, Hispanics, Asians, African Americans, and gay and lesbian organizations. So we really encourage involvement in the arts and culture, and not only in lectures and this kind of involvement, but also encourage it in the curriculum. So we want the curriculum to be, we want you to have vision and global thinking, and not thinking about just Maricopa or Phoenix. We want thinking about Arizona, United States, and our role in the world. And we encourage this in every classroom at every level.
All right, this really is the last question. Mr. Lum, we'll start with you. Most of Arizona's economic organizations believe that access to higher education is the most critical factor for a future successful economy. How will you support greater access to students, especially those who can't afford college? Most of Arizona's economic organizations believe that access to higher education is the most critical factor for a future successful economy. How will you support greater access for students, especially those who can't afford college? Mr. Lum?
Yeah, this is tough. We're always resource hunting, and I think it's my job to be an expert and an advocate. I don't do the work. So we have a foundation that raises monies for scholarships. We get money for the ACE program, the Hoops of Learning, and male minority program now. My family is involved in a scholarship program for Hispanics, where we solicit and get donations, and my wife is really involved in making these grants and scholarships. So I'm involved at all levels. I go to Washington, D.C. I'm let a congressman know that we need these Pell Grants. Not everybody can get through with someone in the family can write a big fat check. And even if they could write that big fat check, you got to pay rent every day, buy food, and get here. So there's more cost to education than just the cost of tuition. So I'm an advocate. We're looking for resources and advocating that people make students a priority.
Mrs. McGrath?
Would you repeat the question,
Yes,
please?
ma'am. Most of Arizona's economic organizations believe that access to higher education is the most critical factor for a future successful economy. How will you support greater access to students, and especially those who can't afford college?
I think that they need to have a better fundraising system through the Alumni Association, good foundations there. I know we raise a lot of funds for scholarships at the Nursery Association, and we really like to give the scholarships to community college students. We don't get enough applications for students going to community colleges. I think there are a lot of scholarships that students could access. They have to have good grades, and that's the best way that they can get access to college, is do the very best you can to get a scholarship, and then hope that the Alumni Association is out there raising funds. Right now, the funding from the government is very difficult to come by because they just simply do not have the funds.
We began this evening with our opening comments from the candidates. We started with Mr. Lum and then Mrs. McGrath. We're going to reverse that order for the closing comments. We'll ask you both for closing statements of no more than 3 minutes. And so, Mrs. McGrath, if you would start, please.
As I said before, I think this is the very best community college district in the nation. Definitely do not want to do anything to change that. You're up against some real problems. There was a lawsuit brought in the state of Florida recently because they have remedial classes, and we're doing the same that they do here, having them students enter remedial classes if they couldn't test out of them. Students sued and was successful in gaining access to the regular classes without having to take remedial classes. I think you're going to be facing that eventually. I think one of the things that you can do that is would be beneficial would be to engage in distant learning. I think that that's the wave of the future. You're very concerned about dropout rates, and I think if you have students that are able to access all the different methods of education, that would be a big, big help. I see nothing but success for the community college district if you can keep your finances under control, because the number one reason they drop out, the first one is they aren't prepared for college work. That's not your fault. It's a breakdown of the K-12 system. I think you ought to be beating up on the K-12 people. Tell them you absolutely have to produce people who can learn. I think this new program that the state of Arizona has, where you cannot pass out of the 3rd grade if you can't read, I think that ought to be reduced to the 2nd grade, because it's a little difficult to catch up when you're in the 3rd grade. But then the number 2 reason people drop out is because of costs, so you need to do something about getting a handle on the costs. The community colleges and colleges across the nation have been hiring more and more staff, and that apparently is not quite necessary, because they didn't used to do it about 10, 12, 14 years ago. But since then, the hiring of staff has gone way up in relationship to the previous hiring of staff, and you just need to figure out ways to make college more affordable and maintain the excellence that we have here.
Mr. Lum, your closing statement?
Yes, I think this is an important election. I've heard a lot of people say, I'm for education, but not for giving them money, and I question if their motivation and their heart. We've done a lot of accomplishment here at Maricopa, and I'm very proud of it. Under this chancellor and under this board, and with the fine faculty here and a fine administration here. We have some student success initiatives that are working really hard at that. We have a goal of 50% success rate by increased success rate by 2020. We have the Maricopa priorities, where we're looking at our budget expenditures and a whole analyst. We're going through this whole study, and that takes a little money. We're looking at performance-based funding. We're looking at one-stop centers that we created at more of our colleges. Some, like Phoenix College didn't have a location. We have a nice one-stop center here now. Glendale, we kind of led the way on that. We're working on open resources for students, where we don't have to buy textbooks. This takes a lot of work, and we can't just tell everybody all of a sudden no textbooks are gone, but we're working on open resources. We have one enrollment we're working on. We thought we can get that done in 6 months. It's taking us a couple of years, 3 years now, but we're going to get it done, and where you can enroll at this college here at Glendale, and also enroll at Rio, and also take a class at Estrella Mountain. And it's a one place. We're going to give you one report card, and it's a one place for signing up. So we're working on that. We're trying to roll that out soon, but that's a lot more work than we thought, a lot more IT work than we thought. So we have a lot of successes. I've been the pain in the neck, the thorn in the side, and however you want to say it. And it was me and a couple of other board members saying, let's look at the finances here. So we brought an outside agency over here. I've been writing and demanding accountability for IT. I've been demanding accountability for all these programs. It was because of me, the IT, ended up doing training for everybody in project management. I said, let's do some project management. Tell me, here's a program you're starting. Tell me, what are the target dates, who's doing them, and what are they getting done? And I kept asking for that. You know, they would start it and they would not do it because they weren't getting done, so they want to show us. But it was me that was on them, and they all got trained for that. And the Goldwater Institute called me up and said, we subpoenaed all your emails, and you are really hard, demanding stuff, and then all of a sudden you turn soft. And what happened, I didn't turn soft. I did a sandwich technique. I said, okay, you're doing this good, you need to do this, and you did this good, and he thought that I was turning soft. But I'm still on administration as far as accountability. Trying to watch Donna here if you didn't time.
Ms. Atkins, if I may, I'd love to hear from any of you if you disagree with me or would like to educate me about my remarks. And I have cards here, and they have my email address, my cell phone, and my home phone, and my post office box on them. If you'd like to contact me and straighten me out, I'd sure appreciate it. And I have these cards right up here. Thank you.
Mr. Lum, anything else? Okay.
Thanks for being here. I'm tired.
Thank you.
Let's go home. Yeah.
Well, I really appreciate our two District 4 candidates spending this evening with us, Mrs. McGrath and Mr. Lum. I also want to thank Glendale Community College for their graciousness in hosting this forum this evening. And Madam President, thank you very much
Can I say
for
one more
your
thing? I'm
hospitality.
sorry. Can I-
Just 1 second. I also want to thank Donna and the other staff, the volunteers who helped make this evening possible. Mr. Lum?
I'm looking at these gentlemen in front of us and off to the side here, and, you know, we have 3 radio stations and a TV station, and there's our TV station here filming this, and it's the dynamic program, the Cox Channel 115. They're doing an outstanding job, and I appreciate all their work, and we're trying to grow this program, this TV program.
And I won't hold it against you that you stole one of my lines, that
Okay.
this is going to be available for broadcast. So if you want to go back and check any of the questions or any of the statements. I really want to thank all of you who took time this evening out of the beginning of your weekend at the end of the week to come and spend Friday evening with us. I think you would agree that this has been a very good investment of 2 hours to learn more about the district, this particular college, and the candidates who are looking for your vote. And so if you would help me thank the candidates for being interested enough to take a chance to go out and get petition signatures and qualify for the ballot and meet with the voters of the district like you, if you would help me applaud them for their efforts and their interest, I would appreciate it. Thank you both very much. I have one little reminder, and I hope it's not for anyone in this room, but it's a data point that you can use with other people. I'm going to hope that everyone in this room is a registered voter. If you're not, you have until October 6th. If you have friends who are not registered voters, please remember that the voter registration deadline is October 6th, and we actually will make it easier for you in that we have voter registration forms in the foyer for you to take this evening. Again, thank you very, very much. Thank our candidates, thank the staff, but most of all, thank the public for coming and sharing this evening with us. Thank you.